Hello everyone, I am Crawlers and there's been a ton of talk online and the YouTubes about the next Battlefield game, which is supposedly coming out in 2016. Now, supposedly codenamed Armageddon, this game is speculated to be Battlefield 5, but again, none of this has been even close to confirmed, so at this point we're stuck just, speculating for a whole year and getting on the hype train, as it were. And honestly, I hate this. I hate the amount of sheer hype that has surrounded all the AAA titles in the past few years. I mean, it always follows the same story arc if you think about it. You know, first the internet fanboys whip themselves up into a frenzy, on forums and on Reddit and the YouTubes and such, during the months of, pure speculation with nothing to go on but a promise that sometime in the future there will be a new game coming out. And they come up with ridiculous expectations, obviously, and, fictional features that they themselves convince the game will have, and that this hypothetical game is supposed to have. But we're all, armchair warriors after all. The game finally releases after all that, with a ton of slapped-on features that are mostly meaningless, like the 200 camos or 50 gadgets, which are mostly useless. Oh, because the publishers, they need to appease somehow the insane amounts of hype that the community has created. And most of these features are tacked on items and purely superficial ones, not even finished or completely buggy as shit. Mobile Commander, I'm looking at you. And as a result, there can only be one outcome to all this. The game is hopelessly and utterly falling below the insanely bloated amounts of artificial hype and, fizzles out quite soon after release. Don't believe me? Well, see the example of Titanfall, Hardline, The Crew, and Watch Dogs. I mean, I could go on and on. And, I mean, Watch Dogs technically wasn't a bad game. It had, interesting GTA-style gameplay, neat features, above-average graphics, a story, plenty of side content to keep you occupied, a multiplayer, and nevertheless, the game didn't live up to expectation, and very soon the community turned toxic and started shitting on the developers and the game, most of which was completely unwarranted. But Fickle is the fanboy club, obviously, and that's another thing that pisses me off. Fanboys harping on a game for no reason because, someone famous yelled fire in a crowded theater. Level Cap, I'm looking at you. The reason I mention Level Cap is because, he's the biggest Battlefield YouTuber out there right now, and although there's more of us than you can count now, and we're swarming on the topic like flies on a cowherd, he is the loudest voice of the community, and he is someone a heck of a lot of people listen to, and no matter what your opinion of him, he is not always right. But that doesn't matter because you don't have to, be right to be heard. You only have to be loud and have a lot of fanboys. And some of the nerfs that he's making videos about, like recently a video about the Iron V and FLIR scopes being OP, are just, completely unwarranted. He's saying the FLIR scopes are basically a cheat, and everybody and their uncle is running them, and on the battlefield, and they require no skill to use. And I don't think that's anywhere close to the truth. I mean, they don't appear online that often, rarely even. They don't have a very good range at all, and they are blinded by flares, which now have somewhat of a use to them. But You see, because he's a big voice of Battlefield, eventually someone at DICE starts to listen to the outrage, which starts building up on, and spreading itself into the forums, and the nerfs start to happen as the developers cave into this basically a circle jerk, because you know it's a self-fueling uh, it's a self-fueling community that kind of reinforces itself on the forums and on Reddit and on YouTube. And I think most of these nerfs are only making the game less skill-based and more noob-friendly, which obviously caters to a wider audience. Which brings me to the speculation of the new Battlefield shooter game, um, supposedly coming out in 2016, supposedly in Q3, which lines up very well for the standard early November, late October release date. Now, some people want to see Battlefield 1944, and others want to see Bad Company 3, and what have you, like Vietnam 2, and you know Battlefield 2144, and so on. And I feel like I'm going to get downvoted to shit for this, for saying this, but I don't want to see Bad Company 3. Well, you see, I think Bad Company 2 was such a breakaway classic, such a pure, down to the basics shooter that didn't take itself too seriously at the same time, and had a single player campaign you actually wanted to play, that in my opinion, if DICE were to remake the game and in that style make a new shooter, they'd muck it up terribly, and it would fall tremendously, spectacularly short of expectations. I mean, Bad Company 1 and 2 was very basic. We only had, if you remember, a few guns, fewer unlocks, and no stupid shiny, sparkly features like, zebra camos and a gun bench and 5 different grenade types and more grenade launchers than you can shake a stick at, and an unbelievable variety of scopes, which are, if you think about it, mostly the same. But hey, at least the box can say over 100 different scopes on it, right? So, at the risk of sounding very unpopular, no, I don't want the next Battlefield game to be Bad Company 3. I think it's impossible to expect a very basic shooter in today's climate from a AAA developer without, hundreds of tacked on features catering to a much wider, and dare I say it, stupider audience. Games are trying to outdo each other in the amount of features that and whatnot, and they're basically competing for buyers, and that's obviously why COD is so popular, because there's many more 14-year-olds willing to do 420 YOLO swag, no scopes hexering than there is hardcore Battlefield tactical people. So EA wants a piece of that pie, and Battlefield is getting dumbed down as an FPS game. I mean, as an example, you can see the transition between Battlefield 2 and Battlefield 3. I mean, it's night and day is what it is. Fancier graphics, fancier sound, but a lot more dumbed down gameplay. So, leave me a comment below, tell me what you think of the future of Battlefield, and thanks for watching. Please rate and share this video as it helps my channel grow. Check out my other videos at the end of this one, and remember, in Soviet Russia, YouTube subscribes you.